How does proper nutrition versus poor nutrition affect us mentally and spiritually?
Oh, that's a really good question. Mm, so proper nutrition, I think I probably need to start with what that means. I think it kind of going back to like avoiding the processed foods and
Mhm.
eating more whole foods. Shop the outside of the grocery store. I think we've all heard that a lot. If God made it, you can eat it.
Hi, I'm Bill Sardin, and welcome back to Circuit Walkers. Today I am going to be talking to Lauren Robertson. She is a nutritionist, and I'm looking forward to hearing from her. This is the perfect day for me to be talking to you because I just got back from grocery shopping. So
Oh,
I
perfect.
either feel like I really messed up or I might have done good, one of the two.
That's funny. Yeah. I'm sure you did great.
Yeah. Well, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Lauren Robertson, and I'm a healthy lifestyle coach. I am a certified nutritionist. I'm also an exercise therapist and a holistic health specialist. And so, what that means is that I help coach women, traditionally women. I've helped some men as well, get like truly healthy. I have a health first approach to nutrition, fitness, and biblically based mindset, and really bringing them all together because I feel like we can't really separate them. It's important that we do all of those things and align with our body's design and really take care of it the way it was made, and then in return, by taking care of it will reward us with health and longevity and all of those things: mental health, physical health, spiritual health. So I have not always been healthy and fit. I started my own health journey about 8 years ago, and it really gave me a passion for helping other women break free from like all the diet culture that's out there that kind of bogs us down and brainwashes us into thinking we have to restrict all this stuff, and you can't have this, and weight loss is the only way, and all of that kind of stuff, and shed that weight of the world and really take care of ourselves the way God made us. So
Okay, awesome. Well, that actually leads me right into one of the questions I wanted to ask you a little bit later. But since you mentioned this, let's jump right into this one. Can you tell me, is there a difference between dieting and a person's diet?
yes. So I find that the word diet is super triggering
Okay.
to me, and to use a colloquial, a common uh, modern colloquialism being triggered by that word. But I hate the word diet. I really even cringe at the word calories, even though calories, all they are is like a measure of fuel for our body. But we've been so tied up in that in the world that it just doesn't feel good to say it. And so, yes, the word diet actually just means what you intake, like the food that you intake,
Right.
good or bad, and there really is no good or bad. And that's something that I have to help unteach the people that I work with too, is that we have these like moral attachments to food because of things that we've learned through our life, that this is bad and this is good, and that we can't have, or all these limitations. But yeah, our diet is really just what we eat, and the world has twisted that into meaning a thing that you do to lose weight.
Right, right. Yeah. Instead of how you basically live your life through intake.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I shouldn't feel bad that because I was in a rush today after I finished grocery shopping, I stopped at Burger King.
No, don't feel bad. I mean, I try to avoid that most of the time, but I mean, every once in a while, it just happens.
Yeah.
It's not something that we need to feel any kind of way about. It's just that, like, 80 to 90% of the time, we want to be eating food that God made, as close to
Right.
God's food as we can.
Yeah. I started my weight loss journey and getting healthier a little more than a year ago. I've dropped about 75 pounds
Oh, that's
since
awesome.
then. And one of the things that I've run into, because I know trying to lose that kind of weight and get healthier can
Yeah.
be really stressful on you physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And I got to my goal. I was really excited and happy about it. But then last month, we went out of town to go to my niece's wedding.
Mhm.
And I spent the entire time stressed out about what am I going to eat because I don't want to put this weight back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super common. It's very in fact, when I first started my journey, I didn't know the things that I know now. So I also started by trying to lose weight. That's what they tell you, right? Like,
Right.
losing weight will help fix all of the things instead of instead of
Yeah.
like the excess fat is actually a symptom of something else going on. Like it's
Right.
not the fat isn't the disease, it's a symptom, and we treat it like it's the disease. And in the world and even in the medical community, like it's like just get smaller at all costs. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as you lose the pounds or whatever. But that's how I started. And I like you, I reached my goal, but then I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to live my life. I was stressed all the time. I couldn't eat out with my family. I was afraid, on vacation, I would just not eat because I was afraid to eat the wrong thing. I would freak out if I gained 5 pounds. It was just extremely stressful. And I will say, spiraled in that maybe about 6 months. And then I met a coach who taught me a lot of the things that I know, at least the habits that I follow. And that really changed my life and like freed me from that because I wasn't focused on all the things I couldn't have. I started to shift into healthier habits and learned that I could go on vacation, have treats on vacation, enjoy myself. And my body still wants healthy things. So that makes it a little easier. But, I kind of, if I'm on vacation, my non-negotiables, I always tell people like find your non-negotiables. What are the things that no matter what you're doing, you can hit? I know I can drink enough water. I know that I'll try to get protein at every meal. I know that I'm going to eat a vegetable anytime I have the opportunity, which may not arise that often. So
Right.
I don't set a goal for that. I just say like anytime there's a vegetable nearby, I'm going to eat it. And then I try to get in enough steps. Like I walk, but which is really easy on vacation. Usually you're up and doing things. And so those are all the things that I focus on. So it's like shifting away from that getting tied up in the calories and the food and the bad things and the fear and breaking free from that fear, because that's really part of bringing God in on the journey too, is like he doesn't give us a spirit of fear. And so the enemy is trying to, it is good for us to take care of our bodies and shed that excess weight and get healthy, but the enemy has twisted it in this world. And so having us all tied up and stressed out about food when God gave us food. It's amazing and delicious. And, if you gain 5 pounds, that's really just a healthy fluctuation and you can lose it back again easy. So does that answer your question? I don't know if I
Yeah,
said.
yeah, it did. And that's one of the reasons I weigh myself every day because I want to know the pattern. It's not that I'm going to freak out that I've gained 2 pounds today. That could be water weight. I mean,
Hmm.
but if I see a pattern,
Right.
maybe
Is it
that
trending up again?
is it trending upwards
Hmm.
or trending too far low because
Hmm.
being underweight's not healthy either.
Right.
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 Make sure we're fueling our bodies well.
Yeah. You mentioned a minute ago about fat just kind of being a symptom of something else, and we're just told just get smaller at all cost. But
Hmm.
I've noticed with friends of mine that have just focused on that when they're done, there's no muscle mass left,
Right.
and and they look like you can knock them over with a feather.
Hmm.
So how important is it to try to maintain your muscle mass while going through this process?
It's extremely important. First and foremost, our muscle is our tool for longevity.
Right.
And so, if we want to stay independent in our lives and be able to go to the bathroom on our own when we're old, we need muscles. They support the structure of our body. Like, I think a lot of times, and I even thought this for a long time until I learned more about what bodies do and like why muscles are important. But your skeleton doesn't hold you up, your muscles hold up your skeleton. And so it's very important for if you have pain, build muscle.
Right.
If you are struggling to, maintain your weight, build muscle. If you are, because our muscle is also our calorie burner. So when we lose, let me back up just a second. So when you're losing weight without actively trying to build muscle, you are losing muscle with fat. So you lose your muscle mass. So say you were 200 pounds before and you were maintaining your weight at 200 pounds. You had enough muscle on your body to burn that amount of calories that you were taking in at that weight. And that's why you're maintaining weight. When you start to lose weight and you lose muscle mass, you're losing your body's ability to burn those calories. So when people reach their goal and they're done and they haven't made significant lifestyle changes to go along with that and haven't learned how to maintain, which is something that I do in my program, is teach how to maintain your success. um, you and you go back to eating the way you were eating before, and you're like, I was maintaining my weight at this, eating this food before, I'll just do it again. Now your body doesn't have the ability to burn that amount of calories anymore, and so you're going to gain. That's why yo-yo diets happen. So you
Right.
end up gaining your weight back plus more, because your body doesn't have the ability to metabolize that same amount of calories. And so we are doing damage to our ability to eat by not having muscle. But what I do as an exercise therapist is help people train their bodies out of pain. And I do that by helping people build muscle, work on their mobility. It helps our bone density. It can combat osteoporosis. It helps to balance our blood sugar, believe it or not. Muscles serve a really important purpose in our life. And fun fact, your heart and your lungs are muscles. And so when you, in your diaphragm
Right.
is a muscle. And so when we get old, and I'm sure we all know somebody who has died from pneumonia
Right.
or has COPD or breathing issues or all these things. That is something that we need to be exercising our heart and our lungs and our diaphragm with breathing and cardiovascular exercise, so that we can keep those things moving, like stretching and expanding and contracting, so that we can expel things out, like if we get pneumonia. And it can be really important for that as well. We don't tend to think about preventative measures for our health. We tend to react. Like we aren't going to lose weight unless we're very over. We're not going to focus on health unless we're very overweight and we don't like how we look, or the doctor tells us we have to, or we don't know. I didn't know that I could be out of pain by exercising the right way, because there's not a lot of people who know the right way. Doing a HIIT exercise at the gym in a group setting when you're in pain is not the most ideal location, because you can't slow down enough to listen to your body. So it all overlaps for sure.
Right. Right. And a lot of it is finding out what works for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I had a coach friend that she would always say, like, people would ask her all the time, like, what's the best exercise to do? And you're like, the one you'll do. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter. Just keep moving. Like, even if you just walk every single day, that's exercising your heart and your lungs. It's exercising your leg muscles. It's keeping you mobile. Like, activity through the day is the most important thing.
Yeah. One of the things that I see in my career as a pastor is I have a lot of older members, and I can tell the difference in the quality of life for my older church members depending on how they've taken care of themselves. And that
Hmm.
was one of the reasons I really wanted to get healthier was, I'm in my early 50s now. I've got to get things straight. And it does affect our long-term life and how much we can enjoy retirement and just spending time with our families.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. And I mean, like you touched on, like, oh, your congregation's older. Like, it is never too late to get healthier. I've had women that showed up in my gym at 70, and they weren't able to go up and down the stairs by themselves. They weren't able to get up off the floor if they fell. They would trip all the time. They had really bad posture. They had a hard time getting up and down off the toilet. And now they're hiking and traveling and putting their things up in the overhead bin by themselves, and walking up and down stairs at the Coliseum. And it's never too late. Like I think a lot of people think, especially women, I think, and I'm gonna lump us in here in this way, but I think that you'll know that it's true is that if we don't care about looking good in a bikini anymore, we're like, and so people don't think about what's happening on the inside and the importance of that, and especially because we've been called to take care of our temple. You know,
Right.
this is the only body we get, and it's so important to take care of it. And it is like going back to like the food, it's okay to have, fun foods sometimes,
Right.
but we really need to be nourishing our bodies and not restricting. We need to be moving because our bodies were made to move and not sitting for so long. They're tracing Alzheimer's and dementia back to, too much sugar in our system, and not, I'm not demonizing sugar because I love, fruit
Right.
is great, carbs are good, we need them, we need those for brain health too, but like they're calling that type 3 diabetes now. Like it's really important for our brain health, for our physical health, to eat, to nourish, and to move and get, our blood pumping and get things going. So
You know, you bring up sugar, and is there a difference between the sugar that we get out of fruits and honey than that white powder that we buy in the bag in the grocery store?
absolutely, there is.
Yeah.
So, and I always tell people like all calories are not created equal, all sugars are not created equal, all carbs are not created equal.
Right.
And so, eliminating one of the things we can do is just eliminate the processed foods from our diet
Yeah.
and the things that have that added refined white powder sugar, because what that's doing, like God did give us sugar cane, like that's a
Right.
thing, but when we strip it of all its fiber and take all the, the good things out of it and then turn it into that white powder, we're not using it for the purpose that it was created.
Yeah.
And so fruit has fiber in it. It has vitamins and minerals in it. So it's pairing that sugar with other things that help our body digest it properly and use it properly. Honey, maple syrup, even like stevia is from a leaf. And so using those as our sweeteners, as our, sugar, and really, really avoiding the artificial sweeteners. I would almost rather you have a little bit of regular sugar than any of the artificial sweeteners, because
Right.
we're putting so much artificial food in our bodies and our body doesn't know what to do with it. They weren't made to ingest that. And so, we're making all this really cheap food that's highly palatable and really easy to overeat, and and that is what's making us sicker and like in hurting us in the long run.
Yeah. Now, when I was a small kid, I'd go visit my stepmother and my dad, and we couldn't have sugar at their house. And kids love sugar. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I was I was getting something out of their van. This was the '70s, and I found a bag of white powder, and I was sugar. I've struck gold. And I put some in my mouth. It was sand from a Florida beach. So
Oh no. That'll teach you.
yeah, that taught me. But yeah,
Well, no, but
I've done a lot of replacing my sugar with honey, just
yeah.
because it does a great job of sweetening. It tastes a
Mhm.
little bit different, but it does a
Yeah.
fantastic job.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't like I still eat sugar every once in a while, but it is something that I am addicted to. Like it's something that I struggle with if I allow it back into my day to day. It makes me feel more anxious. It disrupts my sleep, and the only reason I know those things is because I avoid it most of the time, so I can tell when I've had it. But I mean, my son is 10. He has a little drawer in the kitchen that he has some candy in. And every once in a while, he'll ask me, "Can I have a piece of candy?" Yeah, you can have a piece of candy, because I don't want to make it, again, like, I don't want to tie that like bad, good to food. I
Right.
want to teach him, like, after you eat a balanced meal, sure, you can have a piece of candy. We're not going to eat it every day. He can feel when he's had too much, and he will even tell me, like, I think I need to take a break from the sugar. And I'll be like, okay, I'll hold you accountable to that. And I'll just tell you no for a few days when you ask me for candy. And so just taking a break and letting our body kind of reset. That's what I do with my people in my program is the first 2 weeks, we just do like a detox reset. We cut out sugar, we cut out artificial sweeteners and chemicals, and we cut out processed foods just for 2 weeks very strictly.
Right.
Because if we can do that, we won't crave it as much, and it'll be a lot easier to avoid it in the long term than if we just have I'll just have a little bit, I'll just have a little bit, I'll just have a little bit. I mean, it really is like a drug. Yeah.
Sweet things do that to you. I mean,
Hmm.
right now I'm addicted to raisins. Just oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I will go through a 1 pound jug of raisins in 2 days just
Yeah.
because my body is craving it right now because I let
Hmm.
myself eat it. I guess there's worse things I could be addicted
There are
to.
definitely worse things for sure.
Well, tell me a little bit about your spiritual journey or your
Yeah, so I grew up in the church. That was something that, like, I always knew Jesus loved me, but I was saved. Like, I felt that shift, that change when I was about 13 years old. And I always was living my life for the Lord, but it really shifted. This journey actually tied deeply into that when I was getting healthier, because I was trying to do everything on my own. I was trying to do everything in my own strength, because I'm a smart person. I'm a, I have a lot of skills. I can, muddle my way through a lot,
right,
right? And then I when I started my health journey, it wasn't about God. It was about, I wanted to look better, I wanted to feel better. My son was 3 and I wanted to be active with him, and I was in chronic pain at the time. I was not handling my stress well, but I wasn't going to the Lord. I was self-soothing with chocolate and wine. I'm just gonna be honest. I was not handling that well. And I just got to a point where, enough was enough and I wanted to get healthier. So I started my journey in that way. But I found that I was still trying to, like, I looked at it like, I got myself into this mess and I got to get myself out of it.
right,
And, I just was like, God's got bigger things to worry about than whether or not I'm skinny.
right.
And that was that was just how I looked at
Yeah,
it at first. And so I was trying so hard. And I say it like that because I still catch myself sometimes, like, I'm trying so hard in whatever it is that I'm doing. And he keeps reminding me, like, try softer.
right.
Like, we still have to step up and meet him there at the line. We can't be just sitting and praying for health and then do nothing and
Right,
hope that he just gives us a miracle, which, I mean, he's capable of doing, but he calls us, we are still responsible for self-control. That's a fruit of the spirit. And so, um but then, once I got, deeper into my journey and I was still floundering, I realized I was not allowing him to be my comfort. I still found comfort in food. I still found comfort in, binge watching Netflix and, cuddling up in my bed by myself and shutting everyone else out. And so when I started bringing him in on the journey was when I actually was able to keep going, and it really opened my eyes to taking care of myself to glorify him. And it was just, it's a shift that I can't even describe. Sorry, I got a little emotional right there.
no, oh, that's great.
He gave me this passion and this mission to help other women be set free in that way, and bring him in on the health journeys, because there's nothing else out there that is teaching that. It's all about, like, what you put in your mouth and how you move your body, and that's all. And bringing him in on it and helping, like, asking him to be our strength in these changes, and asking him to break us free from these spirits that are holding us back from the worldly things that we've learned. And it is changing lives in that way. And so shifting into that and allowing him to strengthen me, not only in my health but in my business, because I was a project manager for a big digital marketing company in Little Rock for several years. And that was what really, like, led me to a place where I was like, I have to get out of here because
Right,
it was just killing me. And God was, I started coaching women on the side just for fun, because I just had a passion for it. And he told me in November of 2019, you need to leave and do this full time. And I was like, God, I'm like successful now. I'm doing what I went to school for. I am, making more money than I've ever made. Like I can't leave this job. And he was like, "No, you're going to leave." And he I prayed about it. He gave me a date, and it was March 2020 2020. It was 1 week before COVID shut everything down.
Wow.
And so I decided that in November of 2019, no clue that that was about to happen. Left corporate in March, the first week of March 2020. And then a week later, I was homeschooling my kindergartner. And it had to be God,
Right.
because there is no way I would have left that job if it hadn't been for him. And I mean, it's not like my business is like humongous and, this big, huge thing, but it has grown every year since then, even through the pandemic. And I've been able to help and teach and coach hundreds of women into a healthier lifestyle, and go and speak places and teach my classes, and, just give hope, and with a different maybe twist in this space. And sometimes it feels like you're beating your head against a wall, but God's always there, and I'm just trying to show up and be obedient. And so, but yeah.
Right. Well, first I want to say you said that God gave us sugar cane. God gave us emotions too. So it's great that you were showing some emotion right there. That's fantastic. But did you mentioned that you started letting God in on this process? Were there any spiritual practices you took up that helped you do that?
It's going to sound so simple, and it's something that I should have been doing all along, but it was my daily quiet time.
Mhm.
That was something that I have struggled with my whole life up until a few years ago.
Right.
And I I I would do it when I didn't feel good. When I felt really bad mentally. I would be like, okay, I gotta be good in my quiet time, because I had really good people in my life that would ask me that. That was the first thing they would ask me: "How's your quiet time?" And I'd be like, "Probably not that great." So let me do my quiet time. So I would do my quiet time, and then I would be consistent with it long enough to feel good, and I think that this can also be related to our health journey.
Mhm.
We'll be consistent enough, long enough to feel pretty good, and then fall off again. And so that's what I would do. I'd feel pretty good, and then I would let it slip, and I'd be like, I'm good. I don't need that today. I'll come back to that tonight or tomorrow. Or I wasn't prioritizing the time.
Right.
But making that time every single morning, it doesn't look the same every day. Sometimes I'm so distracted, all I can do is listen to worship music and repeat what they
Right.
say. Sometimes I'm just sitting quietly listening. Sometimes I'm journaling. Sometimes I'm reading my Bible. And I think that that was a thing too. Like, I was putting too many rules on it. That
Right.
if I can't sit down and do it this exact way for 30 minutes every single day, then it doesn't count. And so, starting to break free from that all or nothing mindset that I teach in my health stuff, and just start taking a step forward, even if it's 5 minutes.
Right.
Dedicate that 5 minutes, and be consistent. And that is really in line with all the things that I teach for health too, because it's very simple. It feels like it's supposed to be really hard, but it's very simple. It's not easy, but it's so simple. And if we got out of our own way and broke free from that all or nothing mindset, and just did these little simple things every day with consistency, our life would be transformed. And quiet time is what did that for me, making time for the Lord.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons we started this virtual walking club that led into this podcast as well. Is I kept hearing not just people saying to me, but sharing with my colleagues, I'm so worn out, I can't pray right now. And as you said, one of the things that helped you were the people asking you, have you had your morning quiet time today?
Mhm.
Uh, and we all need that. We need that kind of accountability. We need other people to lift us up and encourage us to continue on. I'm a pastor, and there are days I get so busy that I don't make time for quiet time,
Mhm.
and so this is such an important thing to even hesitate to say hold each other accountable, but that's what we're doing. But it
Yeah,
almost sounds negative when we say that. We're encouraging each other and
right,
making sure that we're taking care of each other.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
we were created for community.
Right.
that's what church is community. And, we were called to be together. And I think that's something that the world's tried to do too, to tear us down as believers, is to isolate us and to make us feel like you should be able to do this yourself, and shame on you if you can't. So there's this shame that comes with, and this guilt of like, why can't I get it together? Everybody else seems to be able to do it. And, but like you said, like that word accountability has been twisted, just like
Yeah,
the word diet, just like the word calorie, just like, exercise. It's been so twisted by the enemy in our minds that like we shy away from accountability. It feels judgmental
yeah,
instead of loving and
yeah,
supportive. And so that, I think, is why that's why I love to be a coach, because I walk beside you in it. I'm teaching you what I do, and I'm asking you, did you do the thing? And if you didn't, okay, let's talk about why you didn't do the thing. Do we need to, try something different? You need to try again. Do you need to put it in a different place in your day? Do helping you kind of come up with a simple strategy, and not just say like, I didn't do it or I can't do it, but like, okay, how can I do it? And really start to think about, instead of just pushing it to the side, like, I just can't do that right now. Well, when can you? And then
right.
taking that beat to just like, well, I could do it. I could do it right now. I got a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. you
No
know,
time like the present, right?
right.
Exactly. So I've just got a couple more questions for you because I know you're busy. The first is, I wanted to bring on because nutrition is an important part of our lives. Uh, how does proper nutrition versus poor nutrition affect us mentally and spiritually?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Mm,
Mm, so proper nutrition, I think I probably need to start with what that means. I think it kind of going back to like avoiding the processed foods and
mhm,
eating more whole foods.
right,
Shop the outside of the grocery store. I think we've all heard that a lot. If God made it, you can eat it, but there's also a balance that needs to happen. So the first thing that you want to focus on is quality of your food.
right,
So don't worry about the balance. If you're going from eating Burger King every single day to, just eating more vegetables, that's a good place to start. Like, focus on, what can I add into my day, and kind of crowd out the junk food. And if you can, stop eating it altogether, then that's fantastic. But really focusing on like better than before, and eating more quality foods, more whole foods, more foods that are as close to the way that God created them as possible. Fruits, vegetables, grains, rice. Well, that's a grain. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, gourds, and meat, and beans, and all that kind of stuff. But also kind of tuning in and seeing, how does my body respond to that? Like, how does that make my body feel? And prioritizing those things that make us feel our best. And it's really kind of funny and amazing. I just started this, my April session started with my program group on the 1st. And so they started, the one that I was talking to, she actually started Monday, and I talked to her yesterday. So that was only 3 days of the detox.
right.
And just 3 days of eating whole foods. And she was feeling so much better. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I could feel this good." I did, like, and it's amazing, like, how quickly our body will respond if we do. And so really prioritizing, that's, I think, quality is number 1. If God made it, you can eat it. So start there.
Good rule.
Yeah. And because I think that there's so much restriction
Right,
and misinformation out there about like carbs and
right,
fat and all that kind of stuff. And so, but if God made it, you can eat it. That's absolutely the golden rule. And then the next part is, we want to have a balanced plate. So if we're eating all the things and everything feels good, but we still want to, make our bodies change a little bit, right? We want to make sure we're eating a balanced meal. What does that mean? It means, like, imagine this is your plate, you have a circle.
right.
Half of your plate should be vegetables. And then a quarter of your plate should be protein. And the bottom quarter of your plate should be healthy carbs. What do I mean when I say healthy carbs? Things that are heavier in carbohydrates than like fruit, potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, oatmeal, grains, whole grain bread. tortillas, all of those things can go in that little space. But something that I teach at my seminar all the time is that even if you kept eating the exact same foods that you ate, that you eat now, you didn't make any changes other than you put them in the right place in the balance plate. And like you're eating macaroni and cheese, but you're only eating this much macaroni and cheese instead of this much macaroni and cheese. And you're also eating broccoli with your macaroni and cheese and you have some chicken on the side. Then you can, your body will respond to that way in that way too, because all of those different things, healthy fats, vegetables, carbs, and protein, they all serve a purpose in our body. They help us feel satiated. They give our body all the things it needs for energy and sustained energy, micronutrients from like the minerals and vitamins that are in the fruits and vegetables, and fiber to help, keep things moving along. That's super important for your gut health and your microbiome in there. So yeah.
All right. So my last question before we get to our two fun questions, because we're going to have fun before we end, is, I love to cook, and I've served in very rural places. I prefer to cook from scratch because I want to know everything that's in my food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also just fun to cook from scratch. But being in rural places and also being in the inner city, I've noticed it's hard to get those good quality foods. Do you have any advice for people in those situations? Because that's a reality.
It is. It absolutely is. I live in Pine Bluff, and so there's a lot of food deserts here
Mhm.
in Pine Bluff. And so frozen fruits and vegetables are just as good as fresh ones. Even canned, like I would choose like a low sodium canned, but if you're getting canned fruits and vegetables, that's still better than not eating any at all. When you're getting fruit, I lean towards 100% juice versus like syrup, because and always check the ingredients list. If it has a laundry list of ingredients and half of them you can't pronounce, I would avoid that thing. But there's so many things that we can eat, like even canned chicken, tuna, frozen meats, frozen fruits and vegetables. Rice is extremely available and very inexpensive. So are potatoes. And so going to farmers markets, you can save a lot eating things that are in season. If you go to like a roadside stand, they'll be less expensive and they taste better because they're in season. Um, and so don't let people tell you that canned vegetables are bad, or that, frozen, it's that you have to have, in a perfect world, we would all be homesteaders that grew our own food and it would all be organic and we would have our own cow and we would, it would be, we would know exactly what's in everything that we're eating. That would be perfect. But again, kind of going back to like how can we be better than before? How can we nourish our bodies and, stop this like constant berated of like all these foods that are making us sick and costing us our health because they're not real food, and we're trying desperately just to eat something because I've been on a very, very tight budget before. Years ago we ate a lot of beans and rice. That was like what we lived on. And so I can really understand and appreciate the privilege that I have to be able to go to the grocery store and get whatever I want. But buying things in bulk and sharing with friends is a good way to do it. But again, I love frozen fruits and vegetables. They're really easy to work with and accessible.
Yeah, and we live in a wonderful time. There, when I can't find an ingredient, I can now go to Amazon as long as I
Mhm,
plan out far enough in advance,
mhm.
and it really doesn't have to be that far with 2-day shipping. Uh,
Yeah.
I can have it here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and Walmart has like delivery now.
yes.
So you can get things delivered if you're not able to drive to the store. So that's a great thing that came out of if anything good came out of the pandemic, it was grocery order and delivery.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, before we close, I got a couple of fun questions for you.
Okay.
First, I'm going to turn you into the queen of the world. You
Oh, okay.
rule everything, and
All right.
everybody has to do what you say.
Ooh,
So, but you
dangerous.
only have one command you can give. What would you
One
have
command.
people change or add to their lives if you were queen of the world and had one
Ooh.
command?
Love yourself right where you are, but love yourself and not enough not to stay there.
That's awesome. All right. And what is your soul's theme song?
Oh, that's a tough question.
It
I'm like,
is.
what is the first question? That's the first song that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I can answer that one.
Yeah.
What's my soul's theme song? No, it's like I can't even think of a song now.
No, that's all right.
I love
It'll come
so
to you.
many songs. Oh, okay. Right now, I love that song. Like, it's gonna be a good day, good
Yeah.
day. I can't. Forrest Frank, is that who sings that? I can't think of it.
I'm not sure. Quite honestly, if it's not rock from the late 90s back to the 70s, mid 60s, I don't know it. So
Yeah. It changes. It changes depending on my mood.
yeah, it does. It truly does. It truly does. So if people want to get a hold of you or connect with you, Lauren, how can they do that?
Okay, so I'll just give you, first of all, I'll just give you my phone number. You can call me at or text me at 870-718-2076. I also am in the middle of a rebrand, so it makes it a little bit confusing. I recently rebranded to Kingdom Wellness 360. So that's where you can find me on Facebook, Kingdom Wellness 360. And if you go to kingdomwellness360.com, it'll redirect you to my old website, which is lbrfitness.com. And so the new website's in the works, but until then, it's still redirecting to there. So you can find me there as well.
Well, it has been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Truth and love, the road we roam. In our spirits we find home. Living life to the fullest extent. With every step our hearts content.